Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Again, for all those people who say why can't he just follow the rules? Tim explains it really well in that letter, if you wouldn't mind digging it up. It's a letter he wrote from behind bars at the Remand Center, and I think he sent it to his lovely wife, Raquel, and she published it on the fairviewbaptistchurch.ca website. And it's a letter to Premier Kenney and Alberta MLAs. He says, I write this from my jail cell in the Calgary Remand Center. The past week, I've missed my wedding anniversary and Father's Day. My children will remember this Father's Day as a time when they wept over the phone as I did my best to stay composed before other inmates while expressing my love for my children. Your government has wrongfully put me on the horns of a dilemma. Either I forsake my convictions before God, or I'm imprisoned for some unknown time, taken from my family and the church community I'm entrusted to serve. If I choose the former, then I deny God. Thus, I'm left facing the consequences of the latter. My conscience is captive to the word of God and shall not be moved.
And, well, without further ado, folks, if Rebel News headquarters was the Bat Cave, our Batmobile is the jumbotron equipped truck. I love that thing. And that's the same kind of thing, too, trying to get a modicum of justice out there. And Sheila, maybe you can explain what this is about. It is our Shame on Shandro campaign. What is all that about?
Oh boy, we fired up the Shame Mobile and we're taking it all around Calgary. I'm like you, David. I love the Billboard trucks. And I'm so happy that our first time out, I guess, since the beginning of the pandemic, is the Billboard truck to shame one of the worst lockdown offenders in Alberta. It's Health Minister Tyler Shandro. He has allowed his health bureaucrats to run to use the court system to get court orders to arrest pastors in front of their kids. In the case of Tim Stevens, twice. Pastor Art on the cold, wet pavement, they did that. Oh. That was Alberta Health Services going to court to get a secret court order. They arrested Chris Scott at the Whistle Stop using that same order. Tim Stevens is still in jail. His kids spent Father's Day without their dad because the province locked him up, and it is Health Minister Tyler Shandro is directly responsible for that. Raquel Stevens, her anniversary with Tim happened just last week while Tim was incarcerated. Alberta is moving to stage 3 reopening. All the MLAs are off shopping for their Calgary Stampede outfits. Tim Stevens is still in jail. So we got ourselves a Billboard truck. And Adam Sost and K2, Key and Simone, they're driving around Calgary. They drove it around all day yesterday. They're driving it around today. So if you see them, take a picture, tweet it at me, because I want to share it. And they are taking it to churches. They're driving it around all high visibility locations in Calgary because they want to shame Tyler Shandro. I think it's really weird how the rest of the world outside of Alberta, they are absolutely shocked and outraged at what's happening to the pastors here, including Pastor Coates, by the way. I can't even believe I just glossed right over him. Pastor Coates also spent 35 days in jail, again, directly on the shoulders of Tyler Shandro. And we think that while the mainstream media is perfectly fine with the treatment of Christian pastors in this province, we think the general public is outraged. And if you think that too, might I suggest you go to shameonshandro.com. We've got a petition there. But also, if you wouldn't mind pitching in to cover the cost of that Billboard truck, every little bit helps. But we think it is so important to, show the world that while the government and while Health Minister Shandro is locking up pastors, normal everyday Albertans think it is a shameful international disgrace. And again, you can help cover the cost to offset the Billboard truck because these things are expensive. We've got to create graphics and video production beforehand and then, pay the truck to drive it around. That's at shameonshandro.com. Justin, you got a little clip there, don't you?
Yeah, let's check that out.
And so we arranged a little surprise for Mr. Shandro. We're going to have a billboard bus with footage of these dramatic arrests and pictures of Tyler Shandro in the Sky Palace, going around reminding everyone of the ridiculous hypocrite that Tyler Shandro is. If you want to help this initiative, I urge you to go to shameonshandro.com to help. And Calgary, we'll see you out there. Shame on you, Tyler Shandro.
You guys looked up Doc. You just want to say bye. You guys step back, please. Bye, Dad.
I love you very much, okay?
Adam Sos for Rebel News here, and I'm standing in the very spot where Pastor Tim Stevens was first arrested. As you likely know, he was in jail for a bit and released because they watched the arrest and watched serving of papers. He's now been rearrested, and you also no doubt saw that harrowing and heartrending footage of him being taken away from his crying family. We also know that Pastor Artur Pawlowski was arrested in dramatic SWAT-style fashion roadside. This isn't the only group of people that have been targeted, though. It's not just pastors. It's business owners and it's individuals who've been punished, ticketed, and thrown in jail for resisting these unjust measures. And we've learned that the man responsible for targeting these individuals, for making a political example out of them, is Tyler Shandro. And we cannot let that stand. Tyler Shandro himself is a scofflaw. He was caught in the Sky Palace breaking these rules. He's been caught in numerous instances along with other UCP members violating the very rules that he's enforcing militantly on others. That is a double standard that we are not allowing. And so we arranged a little surprise for Mr. Shandro. We're going to have a billboard bus with footage of these dramatic arrests and pictures of Tyler Shandro in the Sky Palace, going around reminding everyone of the ridiculous hypocrite that Tyler Shandro is. If you want to help this initiative, I urge you to go to shameonshandro.com to help. And Calgary, we'll see you out there. Shame on you, Tyler Shandro. Hey guys, so just a quick update on our tour of the city in our Shame on Shandro truck. We're now, as you likely recognize, outside the church of Pastor Artur Pawlowski. This is of course the location he left from after worship before his arrest. This is also where he ejected the authorities in his viral get out speech. So we're gonna hang out here for a while. We were at the police station, we were at Tyler Shandro's office. We started off, as you know, this morning at Pastor Tim Stevens Church. Next up though, we're gonna be heading downtown. So if you're downtown, you may see the Shame on Shandro truck. If you want to help this initiative, go to shameonshandro.com. You can learn more or even help us pay for this truck behind us. All right, everybody, so that is nearly a wrap on the Billboard truck for today. We have been all over the city. Countless eyes have been watching the truck to call out the shameful conduct of Tyler Shandro. Our truck driver is going to keep doing a few laps around the city as you saw him just drive by. But don't fear, we're not done. We're going to be back at it tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled on social media. Maybe you can come track us down and get your eyes on the truck for yourselves.
How cool is that, Sheila? The only thing cooler would be Tyler Shandro walking down the sidewalk and, oh, what's this? And then seeing his image with the word shame on you, like the Game of Thrones Cersei walk of shame. You know, it'd be great if we could hire somebody in a medieval costume with a bell ringing it too as he follows them down the road. But wow, it's well deserved. And I think, Adam made a good point. If you're going to have these draconian rules, maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't agree with them, but that's not the point. Right. It is incumbent upon you to lead by example, to follow those rules, and they don't. So as far as I'm concerned, this guy has no credibility. No.
I mean, especially after he was pictured up in the Sky Palace.
Sky Palace.
In the Sky Palace that has claimed so many conservatives. It's like it's got a siren song and a lure that just calls in, conservative sailors to the rocks and just smashes their careers. He's up there on the Sky Palace whining and dining Jamesons, I guess, with Premier Jason Kenney in violation of the lockdown rules while he is imprisoning good, honest, decent family men. And in the case of Tim Stephens, I would say abusing Tim Stephens.
Yes. Using
the state to abuse Tim Stephens, and more importantly, sorry, Tim, but your kids. Because those kids have been traumatized twice now at the hands of the state because the Calgary police and health officials have come and arrested their dad in front of them, once at the church and once at the home. And so, you know, if there's a single person in this province who deserves to be shamed with a billboard truck, it is Tyler Shandro. And I saw somebody in the YouTube comments say, hey, we probably need one of those for Doug Ford. You know what? You help us pay for this one, we'll pay it forward. We'll get one for Doug Ford. Because I love cracking out the billboard trucks, and I know you love them too, David. They're so much fun.
But if anyone would,
if you'd like to help us cover the cost of this truck and maybe put a little money in the bank to get one for Doug Ford, please go to shameonshandro.com. You know, this shame is very well deserved. And again, it is international. Like, a lot of our media requests for us to appear on like outside media is Americans who can't even believe their eyes about what's happening here. And yet in Alberta in particular, but Canada for sure, some of the largest locker downer cheerleaders are the media, who are saying, well, why didn't Tim Stephens just comply with the law? Why didn't he just do that?
And what I would say to those media COVID Cassandras and Karens is simply this. Sheila, whether it's Grace Life, Pastor Tim, Pastor Arthur, we know for a fact that these churches and what they're doing, like, say, Pastor Art actually feeding the homeless, none of these media Cassandras would ever be caught dead getting so close with the little people like that. There's no evidence whatsoever of a COVID-19 outbreak. Zero. Because we know. We didn't know. A year ago, we weren't quite sure. We were still figuring this out. But now we know that the vast majority of deaths are elderly people at long-term care facilities, and they typically have an underlying medical condition. We know that for a fact. And yet, we're still pretending it's early 2020, like this is maybe the second coming of Ebola. Do you remember, Sheila, when this news was first breaking, you would see people at the gas station and they'd be entombing the gas dispenser in paper towel because it was like there was cooties that would jump onto you. I haven't seen that for about a year now, okay? So we know much more than we did more than a year ago. So why are we pretending it's still early 2020 and that, this is a far more deadly virus that affects everybody equally when we know it is not?
Well, and our politicians know that it's not as deadly as they're telling us because they're behaving exactly like Tyler Shandro is. Exactly like Jason Kenney is. Exactly like Doug Ford is, just going to his cottage to check the plumbing. Sure you are. Justin,
and don't forget that we talked about this when the former Minister of Finance for Ontario, Sheila, Rod Phillips, and to me this was a next level element of deviousness when he was putting out at Christmas time, fireside chats with Rod Phillips, and he's in a turtleneck in front of a fireplace. Meanwhile, he's suntanning his ricotta cheese candy ass in St. Bart's on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And basically, the hypocrisy was one angle, but what you and I agreed on is, deep down, this is great news. And Rod Phillips, he's a smart man. He's in the inner circle of the Ontario government. He has access to all the latest medical and scientific information. He would never dare put his family at risk if he thought flying to the Caribbean was truly a life-changing event. So I thought, hooray, and by the way, just to show that you always fail upward in Doug Ford's Ontario. While he lost the portfolio of Minister of Finance just the other day, he was given a new portfolio. I think it was long-term care. I'm not sure.
Oh my goodness.
But you know what? It's when you get caught and you fail and you screw up, it's not you're canceled. Not if you're part of the elites. It's you go into the penalty box, you serve your double minor, and then you come back with a new portfolio. How pathetic is that?
You know, Justin, if you wouldn't mind going to my Twitter account, if you go there, I've retweeted something that Tim Stevens wrote from behind bars. Oh. And I think, again, for all those people who say why can't he just follow the rules? Tim explains it really well in that letter, if you wouldn't mind digging it up. It's a letter he wrote from behind bars at the Remand Center, and I think he sent it to his lovely wife, Raquel, and she published it on the fairviewbaptistchurch.ca website. And it's a letter to Premier Kenney and Alberta MLAs. He says, I write this from my jail cell in the Calgary Remand Center. The past week, I've missed my wedding anniversary and Father's Day. My children will remember this Father's Day as a time when they wept over the phone as I did my best to stay composed before other inmates while expressing my love for my children. Your government has wrongfully put me on the horns of a dilemma. Either I forsake my convictions before God, or I'm imprisoned for some unknown time, taken from my family and the church community I'm entrusted to serve. If I choose the former, then I deny God. Thus I'm left facing the consequences of the latter. My conscience is captive to the word of God and shall not be moved. I realize that you think it's best to adapt or change religious practices to work within the confines of your overbearing rules. But to adapt or change what I believe God calls me to do is to deny what God has called me to do. What a powerful statement.
It sure
For
is.
For example, I'm commanded by Jesus, who died to make me his own, to practice hospitality. In fact, as a pastor, this must be a defining mark of my life. Hospitality is the practice of welcoming guests into your home, a practice forbidden by your government for 6 months. When forced to choose between obeying God and obeying men, the choice is clear. I've shared publicly and on many occasions how our theological convictions, mined from never-changing scripture, come in conflict with your ever-changing laws. AHS continues to make public statements that they tried working with us, which is shorthand for them seeking unbending compliance through greater threats of punishment. Not once has anyone in your government shown any interest in actually working with us. You have said that we have access to our independent judiciary for such discussions. However, our courts continue to refrain from weighing in on the constitutionality of your health orders. AHS lawyers continue to argue that more time is needed to produce the evidence that your office says it is using to make these restrictions. The courts have not proved to be a timely option for us. Your government can get a court order within a week. We are waiting on a hearing set for the end of September that began with lawyers in December of last year. The dates have been pushed back numerous times. Mr. Premier and elected MLAs, I'm pleading with you to uphold your highest laws to which you are held to account. Temporary public health orders do not supersede our Alberta Bill of Rights nor our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I know that I am in the minority, but these laws are designed to protect the minority. Mr. Premier, I know these restrictions will be lifted soon. I ask that you refrain from using imprisonment ever again to seek compliance to health orders. My imprisonment may be applauded by the left, but it has made Alberta the worldwide embarrassment of conservative governments. As restrictions are lifted, return responsibility to the people of Alberta and return it for good. May this not be a pattern for your government in the future. Thank you. Tim Stevens, pastor of Fairview Baptist Church. What a guy. What a man.
What a guy. What a fantastic letter. And here's a question, Sheila. We know where Premier Kenney stands on this issue by his actions. We know where Mr. Shandro stands. How many MLAs are on side with Pastor Tim, even silently? I mean, you know Alberta far better than I do. You know the people in government far better than I do. How many allies do you think he has in this government?
I think he has fewer than he thinks. That's for sure. I know a lot of them do reach out to me privately, both prominent, powerful staffers and even some, MLAs, in fact, who have reached out to me and said, this is not what I campaigned on doing. This is not why I want to be in government. It's not to lock up pastors. This is not who I am, and this is not who I thought Jason Kenney was. So I think he has fewer allies than he thought. I think he's doing a good job at isolating those allies from each other, because I think if they knew that there were more of them who think alike, they would have the ability to put more pressure, upward pressure. But I think it's probably a 50-50 split. I think there are a lot of people who are saying this is a bridge too far. And then there are other people who are saying, if we just hang on, we'll have the stampede, we'll get through this, the voters will forget. And maybe my allegiance to Jason Kenney during these dark, terrible times for Christians will get me a cabinet seat or a contract or a higher profile deal with the government. I think there's some of those people out there too. And I think those people are in every government, especially in Ontario.
Wow, how sad.
What you just saw there is a clip from our Rebel News daily live stream show. It's fun, it's fast, and it's completely unscripted, so you never really know what you're going to get. Just go to rebelnews.com/livestream